Hi everyone. I think it's week 13. I'm posting 2 weeks in a row just because I accidentally messed up that week 11. Was confused, but anyways, this week I wanted to talk about what my personal limits and like what your guys' personal limits are when you feel comfortable stepping in and supporting someone in a family. Um, so this week I had someone come into hospice pretty quickly. He was at the VA for a good chunk of time, and they found out that he was not doing too well. So he joined hospice, and he wasn't even on hospice for 24 hours, I don't think. So it was a lot of rushing around, finding the nurses to make sure his meds were in the right place, that they were the right dosages, making sure that we had the right information, that we had all the paperwork in place for making sure that we had everything he needed because he was moving into a new facility. And the facility that he moved into is one that I go to quite often because I have a couple other patients there. But his wife wanted him moved there, but also wasn't able to be there for him at the last days, as she knew he was on hospice and he wasn't doing well. She didn't think she could physically be there when he passed, but she wanted to make sure that the nursing home was supported and that her husband was supported during those last days. So yesterday was that day, and I was there with him. He was quite verbal. He was sleeping when I first got there, but once he woke up, he was quite verbal on what he needed, and that he needed medication, he needed to be moved in his bed, he needed the lights turned off, all these simple things that luckily I was able to help him with. But the nurses also needed some support because they were really nervous about how his medications were, because usually they're liquid at that point because they're easier to take for people and also are in shots, but his were not. They were pills, so they had to crush them. I helped them out with that and making sure that they were able to crush them, put them in a little bit of applesauce so we can really make sure he got his meds down. I was with him last night when he did pass, so that's why I didn't post last night. I was not in the best state. That was a rough night. It's probably why I'm rambling so much about it because it's still pretty fresh in my mind. But the wife really needed social workers to be there for her, so she actually asked that when he passed, we, as Beata, would not just call her and say that he passed, but the social worker that I work next to, she went to the house last night to tell her in person and to support her for a good chunk of time. It was a long night for that social worker, but it was also something they somehow build a relationship when he was admitted, and she wanted her to tell her, not anyone else, so that was totally up to her. I was there with the nurses making sure that they understood the right protocol, so they weren't calling his wife when he passed, because we want to make sure that he's getting everything, or she's getting the right support, and that the nurses were giving out that right support. So that was a rough, long night. So back to what I was beginning with is, what's your comfort zone? So for me, last night really pushed that comfort zone of, I knew he wasn't doing well, so I knew there was a part of me that wanted to leave and not be there for his last moments, but at the same time, he was showing so many signs that he just needed me to be there, and his wife needed me, that I decided that I was okay with doing it and that I could stay there for him. So I did, knowing that it was making a difference for him and for the wife. Um, for my full-time job, I do a lot of things like that where I'm thinking, okay, I know I'm off the clock at 4, but do I stay a little bit longer? And that's what happened last night. I got called in randomly and was like, hey, can you just come in? He really needs someone to be there for him. So I feel like I have a pretty good ability to be flexible, and I like that, but I need to learn my boundary of when to back off and say, okay, I need to take care of myself. I can't push myself to the limit where I burn out and I'm exhausted. So sorry for the ramble about last night, but it was a long night and it really taught me that it's good to be there for people, but to always remember that not to put myself in situations where I could really damage myself and not want to be doing this work, because I do. And there's a boundary of what we do as work, and then that personal boundary. So yeah, just something to think about. I don't know if anyone else has gotten to that boundary yet where they had to kind of step back, or they after realized, oh, I wish I held back a little bit, or maybe didn't have that meeting as long, or met them in a specific place. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks.